Well, what did he like?
That's true. He was a malcontent.
He was. It was one of his nice qualities.
A know-it-all malcontent.
A typical South Ender.
Looking good here, Dave.
Anyway.
You're handsome, dog.
Don't say that. Could you write my mother a note? I'm going over there. What's that? She's doing fine, thank you. She says to say hi, by the way.
Do you have the questions?
Yeah.
So stand here.
Oh, he's got the questions.
I got the question.
Oh.
So what you're going to do is you're going to state your name
Yes.
into the camera and spell it out for me.
Okay.
Even though I know how to spell it.
Sure.
And then you're going to talk to Bob. It's
Okay.
going to be a conversation between you and Bob.
Okay.
Okay. And
Sure.
I'm rolling. And
David Kimball. K-I-M as in Mary, B as in boy, A-L-L. David Kimball.
Dave, are you known by any other name except David Kimball?
Hi, Joni. Maybe some guy named Bob Roper gave me the nickname Mooner.
Mooner. Why did he name you Mooner?
It wasn't why you might think. It was because I lived in Half Moon Bay at the time.
Oh, so you never.
So even though my swimming trunks still say Mooner on it, and everybody wonders about that, the real answer is it's not that risque.
So you're not known for mooning then?
Not very often.
All right. Why did you start this open water swimming?
Well, I've always been a water rat since I was a child. My mother still tells the stories that when she would bathe me in the tub and she'd pull the plug and turn around to get the towel, I'd sit on the drain because I didn't want to get out of the water. But then my dear friend Peter Beck introduced me to the South End Rowing Club in 1983, and I'd always been a water rat, surfing and swimming.
Peter introduced you to the club?
He did, yes.
Wow.
Yep.
83.
83.
Okay. Because that's probably the time that I met Pete.
Yep. He joined the club just before I did, and then he said, "You got to come down and see this place."
But you knew him previously.
I did. Yeah.
How?
We were in graduate school together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where?
At Pepperdine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pepperdine. Okay. Explain to me, Dave, your favorite part of open water swimming.
It's
getting out of the water and getting into the sun.
Well, it's actually just being in the elements. It's being in nature, and it's the play that goes with that. There's just and it doesn't matter if it's a smooth as glass morning or if it's a washing machine. It's all play, and it's all invigorating, and it's all fulfilling. That's my favorite.
And it's very euphoric.
Extremely euphoric.
It's the best drug in the world, isn't it?
I would say yes. Well, we're getting near sex, but it's pretty good.
Well, at my age, I'd say it's the best drug in the world. It didn't used to be. Do you have any fears when you're swimming in the open water?
Sure, I do. Yes.
Those are?
Well, I worry about insomnia. I worry about getting too cold because I've had a couple bouts with hypothermia, and that's it.
I'm not familiar with that. What type of hypothermia?
It's what you become after you've had a bout and you don't know you had it. It's you and Buck. You share that in common.
What are some of the symptoms of hypothermia?
For me, my vision gets blurry, and then when I feel my core getting too cold, my arms and legs get cold, but when my core body is cold and my vision goes blurry, then I know I'm pushing it. Well, my speech suffers, but it always suffers. But it suffers even more with hypothermia.
Have you had any near-death experiences?
Only swimming with you. A very special Bay Bridge to club swim. Well, we're not going to get into that. We'd be letting the cat out of the out of the hat or
What
something
has
like
changed
that.
your life since open water? So since you started open water swimming?
Oh man, I can't imagine living any other way. And last year when I celebrated my 64th birthday, a month later I celebrated my 32nd anniversary as a South End Rowing Club member. So for half my life I'd been a member and swimming here, and now it's more than half my life.
Well,
And it's changed my life. I can't even, it's not measurable.
Yeah.
The quality of my life is so different than what it would have been without swimming and without the South End Rowing Club.
Do you have any injuries through swimming in open water?
Well, I have had shoulder problems, my right shoulder, and it's you will appreciate this. It's overuse. Too much surfing and swimming, and surfing and swimming through the pain when I should have been resting. So I had major shoulder surgery because of that.
You have?
Yes. Yeah.
Rotator cuff?
No, it was a procedure called bicep tenodesis. They cut the long head of the tendon off, remove damaged labrum, reattach the tendon to the humerus. And
When did you have that surgery?
9 years ago.
9 years ago.
Yeah.
And how long did it take you to get back in the water?
It was about 5 months before I got back in the water, and I had to go in with fins, and I would just go on my back and swim, kick with my legs, and every once in a while I'd flip over and just go through the simple motions of a freestyle stroke. It took over a year to where I could really start to swim regular again.
So do you think that's by overuse in swimming or surfing, or combination?
Both. It's a combination. Yeah, it was both. But you understand overuse. When I joined the club, on that big poster board right inside the front door, there was an announcement for an orthopedic surgeon was going to be at the club on a Saturday for an overuse clinic. And then I get up in the locker room and this guy named Bob Roper is saying, anything worth doing is worth overdoing. So you are the root of my problem. Your inspiration and your coaching and your leadership.
And anything worth overdoing is worth doing.
Yeah,
Well,
that's true.
what are some of your favorite memories about swimming, open water swimming?
Oh man. Well, we did Tim Spicer had a birthday swim, and you were on this. You piloted. We did a swim in the middle of September from the club to Alcatraz and back. And it was one of those mornings where it was a sheet of glass, and you could swim straight to the island and straight back. No course correction.
Touch the island.
We touched the island. Well, you had to wait up on shore and touch the island, and then swim right back. It was the most beautiful day, and it's still embedded in my head. It was so gorgeous. But I remember once we did a yacht harbor swim, and it was gale winds. And you, when we got in, you apologized. And all you could do on the swim was hope that you were keeping your direction right. It was just great. It was a lovely swim, even though it was a washing machine the whole way.
Was that to it?
No, from Yacht Harbor to the club.
Yeah, that's a beautiful swim. It's one of my
It
favorite
is,
swims.
yeah.
It's a little over a mile, but it's not too long and not too short.
There have been lots of swims. There's so many of them that have been special.
So you're a lifetime member of the South End Rowing Club.
I am now, yes.
And how many years have you been?
33. I'm working on my 34th year.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what does it take to be a life member for the South End Rowing Club?
Well, you have to be 65 years old and have been a club member for 25 years.
Explain your least favorite part of open water swimming.
My least favorite part?
Yeah.
I would say February 9th
The dreaded 9th of February?
Yes, when it's 48 degrees or 47 degrees and it's pitch black, but you have to do it. There's just it's not optional.
What is, you mentioned the dreaded 9th of February. How did that come about?
I don't know, this goofy guy named Bob Roper and it was allegedly the coldest day of the year. I don't remember what it dropped to. What was the temperature that morning?
Minus 45 degrees.
It wasn't that cold, but it was cold. It was around 47 degrees, I think.
Everything was wrong.
Yeah, it was pretty cold. And at that time, you could stay in for about 10 or 15 minutes, and then you had to get out. Or at least I did.
What year was that?
Oh, gosh, that would have been at least maybe 20 years ago?
At least 20 years ago,
yeah.
And that was from Point Bonita?
No, it was just, it was...
Hey, Fred.
It was just, it was in the cove. It was...
No, it was not.
Well, I don't remember. But maybe it was Point Bonita. Was that what it was?
I
don't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it wasn't that far away. No.
Yeah.
It was a...
I know we shouldn't have done it.
It was cold. It was totally stupid. It was totally South End. Which made it sort of...
I understand they're still looking for a couple of swimmers. Is that
Right,
true?
they are.
But they'll find them.
Yeah, well, have they checked the psych wards? Oh, in fact, they should go to Napa.
Napa Ball.
Yeah, you could relate to that.
So, what is your favorite swim?
My favorite swim? Gee, I have to say Yacht Harbor's a pretty good one.
Yeah.
And always Pier 17, I liked that when we would do those 25, 30 years ago, because we'd go down there and jump off between the two piers and swim out to the bay and then catch the current.
Yeah.
And there was always something so special about once you got beyond the piers and the current grabbed you, and then you were whipping by the Pier 33, and then it was unbelievable.
39,
Yeah, it was unbelievable.
I don't think they do Pier 17.
No, I know they
Yeah.
don't. But that was a fun swim.
I remember one day, one morning, we went down there to do it, and it was the tide was very, very low. It was almost completely out.
Uh-huh.
And we all jumped in, and Dave Deasy jumped in, and I think it sunk about up to his knees in mud.
Right.
Oh, I'll never forget that. Yeah. How do you enter the water?
Well, I have a variation on the J.B. Sullivan approach.
And who is J.B. Sullivan?
Well, J.B. Sullivan was one of the most infamous and special members the South End Rowing Club has ever known. J.B. was a San Francisco firefighter. He'd been a merchant marine. Deputy sheriff. He was a self-educated liberal arts major. He painted landscapes. He was he was such a brilliant man, and he was the funniest guy in the world, and he was the most down-to-earth person in the world, and he could make a pun or a joke out of anything and everything.
Well, how did he enter the water?
But the way JB entered the water is he turned on his reptilian brain.
His what?
His reptilian brain. And,
what is that?
Well, we're still trying to figure that out. And he would go in, but what I do when I go in now is I go in to where I wade up just above my waist, and then I wait for a little wave surge, and then I just let my whole body go into the water. And then the worst part's over, and then you're ready to go. So that's my version.
Well, I understand JB's way of going into the water is he would go in backwards.
Yes.
And that way the water didn't know he was coming. And
Right.
It wasn't cold.
That's a JB. Go in backwards, and the water wouldn't know you're there. That makes me think of another South End. Well, I'll say this anyway. The only thing Dan Macarini ever said that made sense to me was, "It's only as cold as it feels." And that was akin to JB going in backwards because the water wouldn't know you were there.
So what's the coldest water temperature you ever swim?
I think it was 47. It was the coldest I've been in here, in the cove.
Well, how do you exit the water?
Well, I swim until I think I can stand at about waist deep, and then usually I take my cap off and take my goggles and my cap off, and then I dunk my whole body in the water, and that's my little ritual for how I get out. And then when I get onto the beach, you have to turn around and look at the most awesome view in the world. The sun will be on the bridge, or the fog's in the bridge, or the moon's over the bridge, the Golden Gate Bridge, or the sun is hitting Sausalito and Mount Tam a certain way. It is spiritual. I mean, there's just you have to do that. You have to turn around and look at what Mother Nature just gave us.
Very blessed.
We're unbelievable, blessed.
Do you have any swimming mentors that have inspired you over the years?
Yeah, Bob Roper. When I first joined the club, Peter Beck brought me down here, and the day my membership became effective was a Wednesday, October 3rd, 1983. So Thursday morning I came in, I went for a little jog, and then Friday, Frank Gallagher said, "I'll take you in," and we swam down to the flag and back. And Frank was a wonderful man. You knew him. And then I come down Saturday morning, and you, Bob Roper, are going to have a gas house. This was before there were really club swims in that way. But anyway, so said, let's go do a gas house. So my third day in the club, I did a gas house. And that was it. My life was changed forever. Thanks to you.
Did you jump into the gas house and come here?
Yeah, we drove over and jumped in right where the boats, gas up, and we swam out to the end of the pier and back to the south end. It was a Saturday morning, and my life was completely changed forever.
I understand you didn't have any pilots in those days.
No pilots. No pilots. We don't need no stinking pilots. We didn't have pilots, and we didn't have the little lights that they have now. But J.B. Sullivan did rig up these. Remember the Dolphin Club? Somebody at the Dolphin Club made these orange canvas caps. They had this vulcanized rubbery thing, and they tied up. And J.B. took and he pop riveted little leather pockets on the outside of the cap. And then he went to a marine supply store and he bought these strobe lights that were waterproof. But of course the strobe light's a distress signal in the water, so rather than being safe, you have all these fishing boats coming over to help you. Anyway.
So what do you think the biggest dangers are with the boards?
Well, it could threaten your marriage. And it has for a number of South Enders. But actually, I think the biggest danger is being overconfident, being too confident, and getting yourself in trouble with the tides, or getting too far away from shore and getting hypothermia. So you have to be heads up, pay attention to the tides, and pay attention to what your own capacity
Know
is.
your limitations.
Yeah, thank you. Know your limitations.
What about finny creatures? I understand that there's a few of them around.
Oh,
Have
man.
you ever encountered any?
Yes, I have. I had one escort me all the way from the opening to the beach. And I one morning I get to the opening and I hit something. And I thought, there was a bottle in the water or something like that. And then something hits me. And it's not a bottle. And then it starts just bumping my legs. And I decide, well, I guess this swim's over. But of course, I'm 10 minutes from shore. I'm out at the opening. And I swam all the way to the beach. And
Very quickly.
Yeah, right. And so this creature keeps bumping my legs, and then it would stop. And I'd say, oh, thank goodness it's bored. And about 20 seconds later, I'd feel the whiskers. And do you know, I got to the beach, And I crawled out. I swam until I could crawl out, and that little creature stayed with me all the way. I don't think it was a sea lion. I think it was a harbor seal.
How about the breath?
Oh, don't even get me started. Those sea lions have the worst breath. They need Listerine, big time.
You've been that close?
Yeah, I have. They're scary. But you know, here's the policy with sea lions. Don't make eye contact. You just don't look at them. And that's it. You're in their territory, and don't mess with them.
How about the men in the gray flannel suits?
Well, I don't. Denial is the most powerful coping mechanism. You just ignore that they exist.
What is that?
That'd be known as a great white shark. They don't come in. The thing is, they don't come inside the Golden Gate, except one time they did at Alcatraz, maybe, and just a couple of years ago.
It did. They were feeding them out there.
Yeah. But no, we just deny that they exist, and that's how you solve that problem.
Okay, what are some of your last thoughts about the club?
Oh man.
Water swimming?
Well, okay, I'm going to start with the most important. Well, the open water swimming is forever. It's just the healthiest thing you could do. It boosts your immune system. If you're depressed, it pulls you right out of your depression. It puts you back into life is grand mode. But the club itself is so special because at the South End Rowing Club, you know, it crosses so many socioeconomic lines. And when everybody's in the sauna and they're naked, and you don't know what's behind somebody's name on their business card, or if they even have a business card. Maybe they live in their car, maybe they're the CEO of a company, but it doesn't matter. Everybody's equal and everybody is supportive of each other. It doesn't matter if you're an Olympic swimmer or if you can barely keep up with the current. It's just the most wonderful place for people and camaraderie and support. And I have made so many lifelong friends at the South End Rowing Club. I can't even count them all. It's the most uplifting place in the world. I can't imagine a better place. And how I could have been so blessed to have been introduced to it and so forth. So those are my...
Have you ever done any pool swimming, Dave?
Not for 33 and a half years. I used to swim at Rossi Pool, you know, over there on Arguello, and that lasted about 6 months, and then Peter Beck introduced me to the South End Rowing Club, and I've never been back to a pool. What's a pool, anyway?
I understand only the fools swim in
That's
pools.
right. That's right.
And was Peter Beck a swimmer?
Well, he wanted to be. Although, you know, when he did his first Alcatraz swim, he did one, and he was very anxious about it. And so I took one of my long surfboards, and I said, I'm going to go with you. I will accompany you the whole way. So I took the board on the boat. He jumped in, and I stayed right with him. And I was able to steer him to go into the currents just right so that it was starting to ebb on that swim, as you guys usually plan it that way. And Peter hit the opening spot on. And all these swimmers that were 3 times faster than them came into the shower and the sauna after he was there, and they looked at him and said, "How in the hell did you get here so fast?" And he had the biggest grin on his face.
Do you see probably broke the Alcatraz swim record?
But Peter was he was your epitome of a South End personality. He and George Farnsworth and Bob Roper. I mean, they are the personalities that make this club.
Yeah, Peter had a pretty sharp whip.
Peter was bombastic, but underneath that bombast, underneath that armor, was the most gentle, kind, considerate person you could ever meet, and giving and generous. But, you know, he had to hide that with all that bombast. But then, you know, that's how he fit in so well. That's why he'd only last about 10 minutes at the Dolphin Club.
Well, you know, when I first met Peter, you know, like I said, he had a sharp whip. And,
Yeah.
The way you'd know that Peter liked you, he did address you as "What's doing, asshole?"
Yeah, right. Well, that's how he addressed you, not the rest of us, only you. But you know, Peter told a story about when he was first came to the South End. Mike Berline introduced him to the South End, and Peter was to meet Mike at the club one Saturday morning, and he comes into the locker room, and there's George Farnsworth.
George who?
Farnsworth, or whatever his name was. You know, Furlow or DeMartini or
Petrotucci.
yeah, whatever it was. One of those many names he went by. And so Peter comes into the locker room and asks, is there a Mike Berline here? And Farnsworth, there's no Mike Berline here. Who's Mike Berline? And he's going on, and finally Farnsworth says to Peter, I think you belong next door at the Dolphin Club. That's probably where Berline is. And Peter looked at him and said, well, if I go next door to the Dolphin Club, does that mean I don't have to listen to your bullshit anymore? And Farnsworth said, I don't know who you are, but you got my vote. That describes Peter Beck and George Farnsworth.
How many times did you swim Alcatraz, Dave?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe 30. I'm not one of these wear out the path guys, you know. But I used to do the club, the summer swim and the New Year's Day swim. And then after about, I don't know, 15 years maybe of that, I just let go of it. I did it on my 60th birthday. I should have done it last year on my 65th, but I don't know, maybe 30, not that many.
So they swam Alcatraz on New Year's Day?
Yeah, New Year's Day. My first Alcatraz swim, it was 49 degrees. And I did it in 39 minutes. It was my fastest Alcatraz ever. I'll never do that again. Now it would be an hour and 39 minutes.
Did you walk partially over or run partially away?
Did I
So
walk?
cold?
It was cold. But you know what? It was a fun swim. And we got lucky that day. Even though the water temperature was cold, it was one of those days where we didn't have, the wind was very mellow. So it was a perfect day for a swim.
How about the Golden Gate? Have you ever swum?
Oh yeah, the Golden Gate. But you know, maybe 10 times. But the Golden Gate is so awesome. When you're under it, you have to roll over on your back and do the backstroke every once in a while. It is just unbelievable, really. So yes.
All right.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you
so
so
what are you
much.
doing with all this?
I don't know yet.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to get all the everybody
So-
that I can, especially the old timers. I'm not saying
Well,
they're
you
old.
got to get, you know who else you got to get is Buck Delventhal.